Welcome to Rebuilding the Beast, guys. How you doing?
We're amazing. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having us, brother.
Oh yeah, thank you for joining me. Where are you guys calling from?
Bali. We are in Bali. 8 a.m. Rise and shine.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
early morning club over there.
Yes.
On the other side of the world, watching everything go crazy from a beach.
How is it over there?
It's beautiful. It's serene. It's quiet. It's calm.
Yeah, we're super blessed to be over here. You don't feel the craziness nearly as much on this like hemisphere, well, at least on this island.
Yeah.
Oh wow. I'm super excited to talk to you guys. As you guys know already, I told you this before we started recording. I'm excited to learn about what you do. I think a lot of people can learn from it as well and can grow. So just in the simplest way possible, maybe you could tell us, like, what do you do and, how do you help people?
Yeah. So I think in one sentence, we help empower people to heal and awaken to their true purpose in life, and healing being the prerequisite to really realizing that purpose. That's like the 1 second clip.
I like that. I think that we all we need that right now. I think this is the purpose of Rebuilding the Beast. There's this idea that everybody has something, a healing journey, a growing journey, something that they're going through that they have to heal from. And so we want to learn from you how we can use your tool, because everybody has a bunch of bag of tools that they can pull out in different parts of their journey. So tell me about how you got into this, what this is, and the healing journey that you're on. How did you get into this path, both of you guys?
Yeah. Why don't you kick off, Shayoon?
Okay. So I originally got into the healing arts because a long time ago, I was in a terrible car accident and I was forced into the medical hamster wheel of being brainwashed that there's no other way out except for through medication. And, and that was kind of it. And that I would just have to deal with it. So basically I got into a car accident that I wasn't able to properly walk for a long time. I had a rod in my back. I had to have injections in my spine all the time. I lost my volleyball scholarship. I basically couldn't do what a normal 19-year-old would be able to do and want to do at that age. Couldn't go dancing, couldn't, just be a normal child or young adult. And I just kind of fell into this hole of depression, and it was just really hard to accept because I went from pro athlete and dancer and active, lifestyle to not being able to do any of that. And it really took a toll on my heart and my soul. And it was just, there's nothing I could do. I just had to accept it. And everybody that I visited, my therapists, my physiotherapists, they all told me such horrific things like, you're never going to be able to have children. You're not going to be able to, heal properly, basically. And then I met this angel called Alexander Mendeluk, who had been, his whole life, he'd studied martial arts. And at the time he had started this amazing company called Spirit Hoods, which turned into this massive fashion company in Los Angeles. And we were in Vegas for a trade show for them. And it was one of their really big parties that night. They were designing hoods for all kinds of celebrities, and it was like a really big deal for them. And I couldn't make it to the party, and we were just he was really upset about it. And he was like, look, let me teach you something, or let me perform a healing art on you. And I just didn't know what that world was like, nor did I believe it really, because I was so deep in the Western medicine game. I was also pre-med as well. And I came from a line of people in the medical industry.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, okay, you can do your healing stuff on me. Within 5 minutes, he had performed emotional freedom technique on me, which is EFT. And within 5 minutes, I was doing downward dog, which I hadn't done in years, and literally crying because I had chosen to forgive my body, emotionally free everything that was built up in there from the past however many years since the accident that I had no idea was mainly the root cause of the trauma that I never released properly. And when I did that, I was literally like dancing, walking, downward dogging, wearing
What?
heels, like so happy. And I was like self-medicating then too, you know, because I was just depressed and whatnot.
Mhm.
Within a week, didn't have to have any more medication, no more rod in my back,
No more
no more
pain.
pain.
In a
I was like
week?
FaceTiming in a week, FaceTiming my parents crying, like, look at me, like I'm able to like move. And they were like, what? And so it's all mindset, and it all starts within. And so I became obsessed with the idea of healing and spreading that word to other people, because it's really that easy when you go to the root cause of the problem of what got you there in the first place. Everything physical comes from something suppressed emotional. When you clear that, everything else falls. And so I became obsessed with wanting to help heal other people. So on that journey, I went and studied all the healing arts, got certified in everything, started my own practice. And here we are together
I
now with our
hereby
own
W
modalities.
I hereby W a beast for sure, because this is what this whole
Yes.
journey is about. Yeah, it's the fact that you have pain and you heal that pain and use that journey that you were on to heal other
Yeah.
people as well. So
Yeah.
that is amazing.
Turning
I
pain
do have
into
a
purpose.
absolutely to pain the purpose. So, what kind of pain were you under at the time? Because we do have the athlete thing in common.
Yeah.
And so at a certain point of being an athlete, I think you get used to pain and
Yeah.
you get used to medications. So
Totally.
I think also, I'm also somebody who was pre-med in college. And so I'm
Nice.
also a little bit of a skeptic when it comes to things like this. I've had so
Yeah.
many different people come to me and try to tell me about different healing techniques, but I'm like, no, 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 I want a doctor.
Yeah.
And so this is why I want to encourage these kind of conversations, because there's a lot of people who are my side and like, yo, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Emotional healing for an injury. So
Yeah.
maybe explain the type of pain you were in and what your injury was.
So the type of pain I was in before even the accident, I dislocated my shoulder a few times. I mean, I had, being an athlete, just multiple injuries all the time. And then when I had the accident, I had slipped discs in my back. I had a slight movement in my spine, my neck, and my shoulders. And then, so what happened was, whenever I tried to walk, it was a little bit more than scoliosis. So the spine would hit the nerve. So it was just severe pain, to where like you just, all that would feel better was like a Norco or something really strong, because like no matter how much physical therapy you did or what you tried to do, the only thing that would actually numb it was a narcotic. That takes a toll on your system after a while, when you start to go down that road of depression. And so the proof of really looking at something in a different way that you've never looked at before. So also not only healing, but growing up Muslim, right? These things are shunned down, they're shunned upon, because they're looked at as like black magic, or like, don't go there. It's not, healing and spirituality is just, it's like, we don't believe in that kind of. So that was another skeptical thing that I had as well in my mind. So I never believed it. I was just around it, and let it happen. But I never experienced it for myself. And when I did, when you really sit there and you think about, what is it that is bothering me, and it's truly emotions. You get over the pain as an athlete, but inside you're like, but I, not only does my back hurt, my heart hurts, my emotional body, my pain body hurts. I'm depressed, I have anxiety, I can't be social because I have so much pain. I'm turning into a hermit. And all of that is outweighs the physical pain, right? And so when you're able to clear that emotional pain within 5 minutes, you could do one line. We do something called emotional mapping, and you map out everything in your life that's ever happened to you, and you put the emotional cause behind it. So just mapping and releasing one emotion that you've been storing for years inside your body releases lifetimes of everything that's stored in there. It's scientifically backed as well. Go ahead. I know you want to
No,
say.
you're on a flow. I love it. I think that I'm excited to see, because now quantum physics is beginning to really help us understand this language of the universe, that, you know, we are actually 99.999999999% energy. And when you go down the subatomic level, all there is like empty space, which isn't empty at all, like down to the molecules. And so if you were to remove all of the matter and shrink like you, Fez, down to just the amount of matter that you actually are, you would be able to fit into a square cube of sugar. And so if you were to take the whole entire a grain
of sand.
Actually, a grain of sand.
Of me. Oh,
yeah, a grain of sand.
A grain of sand, not even as big as sugar.
And if you were to take the whole human population and remove all of the energy, all the matter that would be left would be able to fit into a cube of sugar. And so the conundrum for us as energetic spiritual beings in this planet is we are experiencing a third physical dimension that's feels very real. I can knock on this desk. I can feel what's next to me, see and taste with my six senses. But that's the illusion. The actual scientific reality is that what is in front of us is not physical at all. It's actually energy. And so what moves energy? What creates energy? And how do we manipulate that? Well, it's emotion, and it's visualization, and it's intention. And these things kind of sound elusive, but every single individual, no matter their beliefs, their background, if they're experiencing an emotional pain, can close their eyes and can identify where it's being stored in the body. So it's a very simple technique. If somebody's feeling anxiety, you have to close your eyes and say, where are you feeling it? I feel it in my chest. That's like, I'm short of breath. Okay, well, you're feeling depressed. Where's the depression or the anger? I'm holding it in my hands, arthritis, or in my knees. I can feel the anger in my knees. People can actually identify where emotion is stored. And so energy is stored in the body. And this goes back to the ancients who understood the energetic meridians. And I think now it's accepted that we have chakras. And, you know, if you meditate, it has relief on your emotional body. So the same thing goes down to the microcosm that for Shayoon, for example, she was angry because she viewed life as taking her out of the game that she wanted to play. And I'm sure you could relate to that, right?
Ooh,
and so that whole, so that whole entire, the physical element was one thing, right? Like if you snap your arm, you know, somebody listening to this is like, well, what's the emotional cause of that? I got a broken bone, right? Well, you've got to step back after you fix it and say, well, why did life take me out of that game? If we're only looking at healing through the physical element, we're missing the whole spectrum here. We are conscious beings who are here for a reason. And if we're not aligned with that reason, the universe will align us with that truth. If Shayoon hadn't had that accident, we would have never met. She would have been playing in Oklahoma and I would have been in Los Angeles, and we wouldn't have came together. Fate put her there for a reason so that she could come together with me and we could heal and go on this journey. And so when she went to heal, the whole release that she experienced was forgiving her body, forgiving the pain, accepting the fact that she no longer had to be mad that she had lost something, that something was taken from her life, that she could actually recognize that her body was just giving her the pain to let her know that, hey, this is something that needs to be addressed.
And that life was happening not to me, but for me.
And the second that reversal happened, the body heals. And this is repeatable. Like we're seeing people, and our students are reporting healings of all sorts of things, from diabetes and cancers to anxiety and depression, which is just common. Everybody seems to have it, and they're able to heal all of these types of things. So we come from the belief through our own experience that you can heal anything truly, unless it's karmic, meaning like you were born blind because you had to for this lifetime in order to learn that lesson, or some extreme situation where you've been in a huge traumatic accident or like chemicals or something like that. But even then, miracles happen.
So, I'm sure that because you said a lot of things right now, right? You said meditation, you said, no, I mean, like, you said a lot of things that relate actually to things that I believe in, right? Like, I believe that things happen for you, right? I believe that life is happening for you and is actually pushing you in the direction you're supposed to go in. And once you think about it that way, that's why the name of this is Rebuild It, not broken down and coming. It's like you are in your process, no matter what it is that you're going through, whether it's sickness, whether it's you lost a loved one, whatever, you are being processed. So it just, you have to figure out how to use that to get to where you're trying to go. So I believe in meditation. I believe that, you have to be present, because that's one of the things that trauma does to you, right? It pulls you either back, or you start thinking about the future and you're scared of it and you have anxiety. Now I want to talk about, I'm sure this is something that you get a lot of. You get a lot of criticism, right? Probably. And the skeptics who are unsure about these methods. Like, for instance, like you said, somebody who broke their arm, like, okay, you're telling me that this is a real injury. Like, I got to go see a doctor. Like, how can I heal a broken arm by myself, or by healing my emotions? Or somebody who is struggling with an incurable illness. Right? They could also feel like you are downplaying their struggles. Hopefully, this is not a like a harsh question, but this is something that I think that people would want to hear. They're on the other side. What do you say to these people who feel like, no, this is not, like, I have a real thing that's happening with me. It's not an emotional thing. This is a real thing. What would you say to that?
Well, everybody that says that they have a real problem, we always ask them to go back in time and tell us what the real problem was. So what was the trauma that made this physical problem appear? So for instance, we have clients who have had stage 4 cancer be stable. And for another instance, people that hold traumatic instances in their whole life, it turns into pain and dis-ease, right? You can elaborate on what you usually tell people as well.
So I think number one is there's a role for Western medicine that is important. If you break something, if you've been in an accident and you need emergency assistance, I think that's really where the medical community shines. I think that the majority of it, unfortunately, treats symptoms with medications, and that's it. Like, you go and see a doctor and he says, or doesn't even look you in the eye. It's like, all right, how you doing, Fez? How you doing today? Okay, you got this, you got, all right, well, we got this new medication. Here you go, boom, done. Like, that's not healing from our perspective. Healing is addressing the physical body, the emotional body, and then the spiritual body, so to speak, right? And so for individuals who are going through real things and really suffering, no matter what that is, I just want you to ask yourself, like, what is the real emotional cause? Like, what happened before? So for example, individuals with cancer oftentimes have extreme suppressed hate, rage, anger, pain, abuse, suffering from people who have wounded them in the past, sexual abuse, physical abuse, horrific things. And I don't think I've seen a single cancer patient who doesn't have suppressed emotional trauma. Those suppressed cancerous thoughts distort the energetic flow in the body and can manipulate and change the structure of our cells. And so again, science is now proving that our thoughts can change the molecular structure of our DNA, of our cells. This is a completely amazing revelation that we actually affect the material world with our thoughts. Again, quantum physics has proven through the double slit experiment, please look this up, that just by observing something, it becomes into a reality. And so the second you say, well, it's just physical, you've only got one part of the equation. You've got to look at the emotional behind it, even if it's just the emotional trauma that's come from the accident itself. Maybe you were living what you would say a beautiful, perfect life. You were completely perfect, which I haven't met anybody yet, but they've got their mind straight, they got the physical straight, everything's going, and then boom, something happened, an accident. So you've got to look at the why did that happen? What is the universe saying? What is source saying? What is God saying? What is Allah saying? What is whatever your belief is saying? And it's hard to comprehend this without some sort of spiritual belief in something greater than yourself. And I'm not talking religious here. I'm talking about a belief in something greater than yourself. And that's really key to kind of beginning to, I think, shift the consciousness out of I am this pain, I am this, victim to this experience, to maybe I actually do have some sort of role to play in this emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And then that begins the consciousness shift. Most people who come to us have tried everything. They said, okay, I heard this is great. I need to go on a green juice enema diet, and I need to do yoga teacher training, and I need to go to Vipassana. I need to go to the Himalayas and meditate in a cave for 20 years, and I'm still suffering. And I love that, because they've gone to the point where they've surrendered. And in that place of surrender is when the healing takes place. When you relinquish this kind of control, or this idea that it's outside of yourself, that you've got to go find the guru, you got to go on the special diet, you've got to find the perfect doctor. No, you are the doctor. You are the healer. You've got it. Our bodies are designed perfect. We are in a state of self-regeneration constantly. Look at how people abuse their mind, body, and spirits with the junk we eat, the shit we watch on TV and the media, the way we treat ourselves and people around us. And our bodies are still hanging in there for years. So when you remove the toxic thoughts, when you remove the toxic ingestion of heavy medications and inorganic materials and processed foods, when you clear the mind, body, spirit, your natural state of being is harmony. So it's like all we have to do is get out of the way. Like if you're to cut your hand, you would clean it, you would wrap it, and you would, for the most part, forget about it until it was healed. Right? Because we have a natural, innate, ingrained program to heal. And so the same thing goes for everything else.
Yeah,
except
you have
for
to take care of your wounds. You wouldn't go around the house with a bleeding hand, right? You would take care of it. And so when you don't take care of the micro moments and the things that have happened in your life, and you just suppress them or you forget about them, they turn into disease.
They get infected.
And they get infected. And then you, in turn, it usually happens in your late 20s to 30s, start to have all of these issues and realize what happened in your past. And that's where it all begins, the pain, the anxiety, the depression, all of that. So we teach you how to overcome that in a really short period of time.
Yeah.
This is actually really cool. You call it what?
A spiritual science, because it's repeatable and everybody can do it.
It's a really cool thing. And even if you don't understand the spiritual aspect of it and you only took it from a physical perspective, it's like, it's a real thing that we feel. Like when you're stressed, you tighten up. And when you meditate or do any of these other things, you get a massage, then you loosen back up, and you're like, oh wow, like I feel better. And you might not have done anything. It could have just been a stressful day at work where somebody made you upset or whatever, and you hold on to it. You talked about that with the clenched fists, right? And that led into arthritis. So I agree with all these things. So don't think I'm gonna let you weasel out of telling your story either, Alexander. You still gotta tell us how you got into this. You know what I love about this, and I want to hear some success stories. But yeah, actually, tell me your story and how you got into this.
I grew up in Los Angeles. I was born in Malibu. My older brother, much older than me, was into martial arts at the time. So I was put into martial arts at a very young age, and that was kind of like my sport, so to speak. And so I was in martial arts up through my teens, and I just learned about the body, the discipline of the body, the energetic body, and then the discipline needed for the mind. So really at that young age, it wasn't about healing, but it was very much about discipline of mind and body and the connection between mind and body, right? As a martial artist or in any athlete, I think that's understandable. And then I quit. And when I was 17 and I left school, I went to college at Southern Oregon University. I picked it back up again with a mentor who was really, he was training us different styles of combat for essentially practical fighting and whatnot. But he was also teaching us about ESP, extrasensory perception, remote viewing, and energy, how we could actually manipulate the energy body in our opponents. So the students, when they would go to these tournaments, they would sit around the circle, right? And the two opponents would fight, and you would have teams. And so he would train the teams to basically energetically manipulate the opponent's energy field and drop it down through the power of thought. And you can do muscle testing. If you look up muscle testing, you can test this very easily. If you were to put your arm out and I was to think something negative, I could push your arm down.
Okay, time out. Remember how we used to have those bands that they would put on your arm and do the arm testing with?
Yes.
Okay, so the problem is those things, they turned out to not be true, right?
Okay.
And so when you hear this, it's like, it's crazy to me. And I'm excited to hear about this because I'm like, how can you, in the match, before you even play the match or you fight in the match or you whatever, you already win energetically?
So we have meridians, right? So essentially the meridians run like a flow of river. If you were to put your finger into a stream, you would notice that the water kind of pours out around it, like it unzips almost. It looks like a zipper. This is called unzipping. So you can energetically unzip somebody, literally physically, by just going like this and unzipping them. And then for a state of a few seconds, their energetic field is open for manipulation. Same thing goes for healing. This is why people go and see Reiki masters and energy practitioners, because we can affect the energetic body with our thought. We can affect the energetic body with our intention. Same thing goes for yourself. And this is why people call it the law of attraction or visualization. Visualize the shot before you take it type of thing, right? You're affecting the outcome of a scenario. You can do this with an opponent, or you can do this with somebody else. And so it's called unzipping. And if we were in the physical place, I would show you how it works. But
yeah, so sorry to interrupt your story. I heard that part and it stuck out to me. So you said you guys were in matches and jiu-jitsu fight matches?
No. It didn't have a name to it. Basically, it was about practical street fighting and learning how to use practical movements essentially for like disarming your opponents and essentially beating your opponents, but also for healing, like how to help heal your family, how to help heal yourself and your wounds and these types of things as well. So he had taught me something called emotional freedom techniques. And this is the thing that I had shown Shayoon so that she could heal her body. And you can look this guy up. His name's Gary Craig. He's built a massive community around people who are healing themselves of so many things just through what they call tapping. That he's basically taken acupuncture and the ancient understanding of our meridians and our energy body, and he's taught people how to release emotions through tapping on the different meridians while speaking different affirmations to release pain, essentially, right? So he had taught me kind of like a primitive form of what we're doing now then. And that's what had really opened me up to, oh my goodness, there's so much to this that I had no idea about. And that was kind of my awakening to realizing that there was so much more to than what I had been told or what I had thought. I never thought I was going to get into the healing arts, but I became obsessed with the journey of the soul, past life regression. I started learning from people like Dolores Cannon, who discovered that in deep states of theta brainwave, when you put people down, which is in between waking and sleeping, we're there twice a day when we wake and when we go to bed, that these incredible healings were taking place with people where they're able to access their subconscious mind, the subconscious programming, and in that place be able to release pain and trauma, and the body would naturally heal itself. And so I started just helping my friends and family. My brother, who had originally got me into martial arts, he was a big martial artist in Austin, Texas. He had like 300 students in his school. He had thrown his back out and was out for like a year and super depressed and couldn't heal himself. And he was the guy. And again, I showed him how to release the emotions around it. And in 2 weeks, he was out of bed and he was back in, and he's like 55 and he's kicking, and he'll tell that story today. So that was kind of what set the trajectory. And when I met Shayoon,
he's a back healer.
Wow.
When I met Shayoon, I was I was like going to Los Angeles to be an actor. Like, this was not my thing, you know. I had gotten a small role in Twilight and I was like, this is it, I'm gonna go be a star. And I was frat boy number one, and I was like, this is it, man. Like, I've made it, you know. And so I was down there trying to be an actor, fell flat on my face. Definitely didn't work.
You said frat boy number one?
Yeah,
that was my
Twilight.
my star role.
Twilight.
Twilight, baby.
I'm gonna go watch, and I'm
You won't even recognize him.
Really? Short hair?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
He was
That's
in both
awesome.
of them. Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, so you were doing this thing in PS, by the way. I don't even know if LA is opposite this or if it's pro it, because LA is kind of it's all over the place but you're in LA and Hollywood, which is really not in this direction, right? So did you believe at this point? Now you're doing this healing, but like I want to know like where you were with, you know, what you thought about it, how you felt like it worked. Like, I just want to know your train of thought as well. Like, as we are also learning about this, I want to know about your journey with this.
I was very much like into my egoic desires to be something, you know, as a young male. And so while my soul was very much called to this, and I would read about these things, and I would, like, in conversation, you know, the narratives that I would speak were always very much about, you know, what we're talking about, so to speak. I wasn't near the level of awareness and understanding that I am now. But what happened was I met Shayoon, and I was basically starting this company, Spirit Hoods, that she had mentioned, and I was selling our product at Coachella out of a backpack. And I had seen Shayoon in a field from far away, and I was like, oh my goodness, look at that woman, she's incredible. But I didn't approach. I was too afraid to approach, and so I just kind of like respected from afar, and then went on my way. And then later that night,
you had the secret. You had the unzipping technique. You could have just...
I was scared, bro. I got cold feet.
I wasn't the opponent.
Oh,
and
okay.
so later that night, in a sea of 100,000 people, I saw her dancing again, and I had more courage in me at that time. And so I ran up to her and I grabbed her hand and I whisked her away into the crowd. And I just held her from behind and I said, just take a deep breath with me. And we breathed in, and the DJ dropped the beat, and the fireworks went off, and our souls reconnected. And on the real though, it was like this reemergence of my other half. Like, I had been missing my soulmate, and in that moment we reconnected. And the reason I'm telling this part of the story is because it was that reconnection to love and really understanding who I am over the years, Shayoon, and our love awakening essentially the true version of me within myself, led me to then really realize what my gifts were. And going through her journey and seeing her healer self, somebody that I had loved more than anybody I've ever experienced in my life, was my remembrance after going on this huge kind of journey from 17, learning this technique that I was like, oh, it's kind of a cool trick that can heal people, right? To, oh my God, like, now actually somebody that I care about more than anything is completely transformed. She went on her awakening. And that's part of the story she didn't talk about, was that she could see color, she could see energy in things. It started freaking her out. You know, she was shunning it away. She started receiving visions, and she was channeling messages from her angels.
So, bro, I started after that, after I went on my
Bez's face,
like, what are you talking about?
You can see colors. Okay, this sounds like mushrooms. It's psychedelics.
Yeah,
without
sober.
So
when I accepted the fact that I am a healer, I am here for a greater purpose, our love is meant to inspire, everything else is greater than me, God was like, okay, well, let's see how much of it you can take, right? I started seeing color in everything, to the point where when we used to eat meat and fish. We'd be camping and I could show him where the fish was in the lake so that he could get us food for the evening, like to the point where I can see energy in people's pain bodies and know exactly where their pain is. So during my healings, I can heal it.
GMO, non-GMO
When I'm
food.
at the grocery store, I can see what food is GMO and what's not, and what's actually real by the color of its energy. That's one small part of it. I started receiving crazy, beautiful visions of things that have now taken place that turned out to be very true. I had a dream that, and a vision back then, which was almost 10 years ago, that we were going to move to an island and build something called the Light Force Center, which is a pyramid of light on an island, which is exactly what's happening right now.
Yeah,
and
I read about that.
Yeah. And so what happened was the creepiness of the old pain body started to come back and be like, don't go that path. All the depression started to come back. Like I was scared, anxiety. I was scared of my power. And so I went back a little bit into that zone. And I started taking like Xanax and things like that to calm me down because my anxiety was crazy. And then he said to me, do not shun this away. This is a gift. This is not something that many people get. And God is telling you that you have the power to be able to help hundreds of thousands and millions of people. Why would that put a damper on your soul? And then when I really realized that, up from there, it was like, it's been the most beautiful journey in the world, that we changed our entire lives, because we were 1 foot in, 1 foot out the matrix, right? He was running a multi-million-dollar fashion company. I was in the fashion scene in LA, which is the craziest Hollywood bubble ever, where there's not really that much real going on. When we took the initiative to completely trust in God, trust in source, and go this way, it literally opened up the most abundance, not only financially, but spiritually, mentally. How many people's lives we get to help and save every single day we wake up. The movements, the places we get to live. We moved from LA to Ibiza, now Ibiza to Bali. And just to be able to know, your inner knowing that you are working for God every single day and it works. And you get to inspire through love and healing is the best decision I ever made.
I'm really excited, but one of the things I would love to know and I would love to hear about is the people. So now I know people are excited to hear about the healing. They would love to know, okay, so what kind of cases, what kind of success stories do you guys have through your journey so far?
Well, we have a really good friend in common, Victoria, who has gone, who's gone public about her healing, so we can safely speak about that. She had a really horrible case of skin disease called POTS and anxiety, autoimmune disease, all of that, when she came to us, and was a bit of a skeptic as well. And she, without telling you too much, she left completely cleared of that. And so that's just one part of it. We have people with autoimmune disease. We have people with anxiety, fear, and depression is like on everybody's list when they come in, unfortunately. And they clear that really quickly within the first week.
There was this young girl, you guys can check her out, Emily Tosta. So her testimony is out there as well. And she had an incredible case where this is the perfect test. This is perfect kind of story to kind of highlight the Western perspective versus this perspective, right? She was diagnosed with colitis, ulcerative colitis.
She called us from the hospital.
She was in the hospital for 17 days. She's only 22, and they are basically about ready to come in and remove her colon. Now, ulcerative colitis is that you have ulcers in your intestinal tract. It's incredibly dangerous because you can get blood poisoning. You're bleeding in your stool, like it's heavy. And if it gets really bad, they have to operate and remove your colon. You got to wear a bag on your hip in order to go to the bathroom. So she's an up-and-coming actress. She was like, how is this even happening to me? Meanwhile, they're in there. feeding her like mashed potatoes and steak in the hospital, pumping her full of hormones and all of these heavy infusions to lower inflation, because inflation is the main cause of disease, as we know, right? And so she called us and I spoke to her and I said, well, what's going on? She kind of said what's happening and whatnot. And I said, they're feeding you what? Yeah, they're pumping me full of these things. They're saying my inflammation markers are going up, and then they're feeding me mashed potatoes and steak and gravy and all this stuff. And I said, how is that possible? That is crazy to me. These are the top medical professionals. They're willing to come in here and cut your colon out tomorrow, but they don't understand basic nutrition. How about you stop feeding you mashed potatoes and steak and just see how your body does? So we quickly got her on a detox and removed all of the inflammatory
while
foods.
She was still in the hospital,
which is just basic, right? Like children should learn this in grade school, right? Like just remove the inflammation, right? Allow the body to heal. So she was out in about 3 days after that. We got her out of the hospital, and then we started doing the emotional healing, because that treated the symptom. The symptom was ulcerative colitis. The symptom is cancer. The symptom is broken arm. The symptom is anxiety, depression, fear. The cause, what was the cause of the ulcerative colitis? Well, going back, it had to do with suppressed trauma from her father, from childhood, abandonment issues, these types of things. And so when she healed that, you can listen to her testimony, all of that cleared. Now we've got the before blood work and after blood work of this to show. You can look at the science, you can see it, markers through the roof, ready to remove colon. At the end, completely cleared, completely healed. And they say this is something that can't be cured.
And side note, she spoke to the doctors and she was like, why are you feeding me this? Like, don't you understand that this can actually kill me? And their response was, yeah, we know that it's not good, but that's just how the system is.
We can't change the system.
We can't change the system. And it's shocking, that, and I've spoken to so many doctors who haven't had more than 2 weeks of their years of medical school, more than 2 weeks of nutrition. And the nutrition that people are learning in medical school is that same pyramid that's horrible for you.
Yeah. So that's just a couple. Yeah. The list goes on.
Yeah. So I like these examples because they're things that people like, it seemed incurable by medicine. And then all of a sudden it's like, what is the answer? And then they come to you. And what was that process like though, from start to finish, or from you said you gave me there was one with the blood work was ready to remove the colon, and the other one was where everything was good. So what was that start to finish? What was that timeline like?
4 weeks. So we have a 4 and 7. We have a 4 and 7 week program. Works like clockwork with every single person, no matter what they come to us with. So in 4 weeks, we have a program that we call the Light Force Healing Program. And then the 7-week program is on the other side of your pain and your healing when you're completely cleared. Most people don't understand the other side of that world. So we show them how to find their vision, mission, and purpose, and what to do on the other side of pain. So in the first 4 weeks, we take you through every single micro moment in your life. The time when Johnny punched me on the playground when I was 5 years old and I felt shame and embarrassment and hurt, all of these things that still stick in your pain body, we show you how to release that completely. So we make you emotionally map every moment in your life that has caused turmoil or trauma. And then you rank it on a scale of 0 to 10. The time my dad hit me when I was 5 and I felt unloved. You can hold multiple emotions over just one instance in your body for years. And you can also clear all of those in one session with us like that. And we do 2 hours on Zoom for 4 weeks. And we're going in there, we're clearing out your entire emotional pain body through a modality that we've both put together with both of our healing work. We've put together one modality called the Light Force modality, which is a combination of hypnosis, quantum healing technique, remote healing, diet, shamanism, everything aligned with one, because it has to be mind, body, spirit. And like clockwork, when you remove the root cause, it's like the house of cards. When you remove the bottom part, the root of what it is that you're suffering, everything else falls. And so that's why we're able to see these massively beautiful results within just 4 weeks.
And
So-
the last piece of this is that it's not us healing you. It's you healing yourself. And so the difference between what we do, and I think a lot of what people experience, is that people get incremental relief. Like maybe they go and they heal the trauma from the abuser in their life, right? But they're still suffering. There's still other things that happen. We don't necessarily recognize that there are micro traumas throughout our whole entire life, from feeling ostracized, from feeling different, from, fear from the collective, from this, from that. So we have a whole lifetime of it. So when we map people's emotions and we say lines, it's literally on an Excel sheet and they fill in hundreds of lines. I mean, imagine filling every single character in your life that's actually like you feel has hurt you or that you've done to yourself, and having to clear it. We don't leave a single stone unturned. So imagine if you could look back in your whole entire life and not have a single negative emotion about anything. What would that feel like? Well, what happens is you feel love. That's it. That's what's underneath. And that's the program that's left underneath all the fear and the suffering is love. And that frequency, and it's measurable, right? The heart can be measured up to a mile outside the body with a happy, healthy individual. That is what heals and what transforms. And so we're naturally uncovering what's already inside you, the individual, so that your body can just do what it's designed to do and get out of the way.
Yeah, we empower you to heal. We're just the facilitators, but also we take you back to your original self, because we were not designed to be sick. We are born from love, and everything else is taught. And in those early stages of our developments, from birth until 5 years old, when you experience extreme trauma or any sort of trauma or abuse, 97% of our clients are sexually abused before the age of 5. It's terrible, and it will stick with you your entire life until you know how to completely emotionally release it from your body, to where you can look at it now and say, I've been sexually abused, but I don't hold an emotional charge to it anymore. And you can look at it without holding any charge. That means your body is free from the pain and the suffering.
I actually just did an interview yesterday with a girl. She's a model. She's actually getting pretty big. And her story was interesting because she talked about being molested, but she was raped at 17, and what that did to her. I would be really interested to understand how this work would help her, right? She's now at the point where she feels like, with therapy, with, doing, she's now somebody who has healed herself and is on the journey to heal other people as well. But this idea of stripping down your emotions, your food, the stuff that you eat, all these things, I think that they're important anyways, right? Even if you didn't have anything wrong with you, I think it's important to live a happy life, a loving life anyway. Like somebody like me who for example had a knee surgery, right? Had an injury, had surgery. It's taken me 3 years to recover. I'm still struggling a little bit with it. If I approach you as a client, what would be the next steps, and how would the process of healing go?
Yeah, so we look at obviously what the issue is. We look at what medications are in the body. We look definitely at what food you're putting in the body. So again, addressing the physical body on the physical level, important, one piece of it, right? Really, I'm interested in what happened to little Fez when he was a kid growing up. What emotions did he experience?
What symptoms do you have right now besides pain in your knee?
Right. What emotional issues are you dealing with? And what we do is we map that. So we go through all of your emotional issues, right? Things maybe you feel a little anxiety, or maybe there's a little bit of this or a little bit of that. Maybe there's some anger. Maybe there's boom. Maybe there's some emotions around the injury. Do you have any emotions around the injury still? Like, do you?
Well, it took me away from something I love. So yeah, you feel anger? You feel sadness? You feel
same?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I got to my question now. So before I forget, and you can.
And then I got one for you.
So the question was, how people go on? And I've heard about this all the time. People go on ayahuasca trips, right? And they come back feeling healed because they address these past issues. Is that the same idea? Is it that same concept of you go back in the past and you see these different traumas in your life, and then you address them, and it helps you live a healthier life moving forward?
I'm so glad that you brought this up.
We're fresh out.
So let me just address this, because this is so important.
Yeah.
If anybody can walk away from this with one thing, this is what I would say. No matter what modality you choose to use, right? I don't mind. I don't care, right? As long as it allows you to free the negative emotion from your past, you'll experience some level of healing. That level of healing is dependent, obviously, on the individual, the modality, the circumstances, and many different factors. But if we can all just arrive and hope, I'm praying that the medical industry can arrive at this too, and start recognizing the fact that when we release negative emotion from the body, there's a physiological and physical healing and response that takes place, cause, effect. If we can arrive at that, then we can have this conversation about all these beautiful things that are really out there, such as plant medicine. Ayahuasca is an incredibly important, and plant medicine is an incredibly important tool for us on our awakening journey. The journey of awakening means that we have been asleep. We've forgotten who we truly are. This whole narrative of what we're talking about, even what you feel like you're talking about, is like awakening that beast, right? The beast, I relate to that as like the full powered individual of who we really are. We can only be that on the other side of our suffering. That means no limitations. That means, Fez, I'm getting up. There's no anger in me. There is no pain. There's no remorse. There's no regret. There's nothing from the past, period, that has any negative effect on me whatsoever. That's what true awakening looks like. Now we can start looking at what that embodiment of being the beast really is. Your experience through the injury is leading you now to this path. And that's clearly something that the universe is telling you, took you out of that game in order to help you understand a different aspect of yourself. I'm sure you've grown so much from that. Ayahuasca, Madrecita, she is an actual consciousness, and there's a consciousness that you get to experience and have, if you have the honor of sitting with a proper shaman and experiencing that. It's incredibly important for our evolution, and that's why she's become so popular now, because she's facilitating the awakening of our consciousness, and it's really like blasting the doors open. You want to really understand the stuff that we're talking about. Sit with the plant medicine responsibly and in respect of her. Now, the whole key is that she is showing you elements of yourself that you would normally never identify, and there's vomiting and purging. So she will take you back to the abuse. She'll take you back to all the suppressed trauma. She'll take you back to the things that we forget even. She'll take you back to past life trauma and karma that needs to be purged. And this is an incredibly important part of the work that we do. And plant medicine has been teaching humanity since the dawn of time. And there's a lot of wisdom and understanding that is unlocked in the journey of understanding that relationship. And so when we work with different plant medicines, we focus on doing our process always first, clearing the emotional trauma as much as we can through the work that we do. So that way, when you actually get to approach the medicine, you're not going on nearly as heavy of a journey clearing past trauma, because what you experience is, just with anything, is it becomes a crutch for people. You hear people talk about, I've been on 200 ayahuasca journeys. And I'm like, well, how you doing? And it's like, well, I still hate my mom. And I'm like, okay, well, there's a problem there, like you haven't fully healed. And so people use it as a crutch because they view it as something that's outside of themselves. They give their power to it. Whereas she's there as a teacher, always reminding you that you are the healer inside of yourself.
This is something that I've always thought about. And this is actually a debate that I got into with a friend of mine. I don't believe in long-term medication of any kind. Yeah. Right? Whether it's medicine, whether it's plant medicine, whatever it is. And so when somebody tells me they've done this multiple times, and I'm like, okay, well, then that's not the solution then, because whatever it is, you're not solving the problem. And so I've had friends come to me and say, well, I've done ayahuasca. I had a friend tell me that they did ayahuasca last year. They did it twice a month the whole year. And so I'm like, okay, well, whatever it is
How
that
you
you're trying
doing?
to convince me of, that's not, you didn't convince me of anything because you're still
Because you're
doing
still
it,
messed
right?
up. Like,
It's that's what I'm trying to understand. So what is the work that comes before or after these plant medicines that helps facilitate healing?
it cannot take the place of your own work. I think, again, people go into this and they think, I'm just going to be miraculous healed by this thing that is outside of me. She is forcing you to confront your own shit. You still have to do the heavy lifting, my friends. It's not about the ayahuasca journey. It's about what you receive, what you see. Yes, of course, it's about the release you get there. But once you're up, you got to go and live your life and do the work. We have to show up to our lives and be conscious of every micro moment in our lives. Everything we think has got to be aligned with the vibration, the frequency of truth. That truth comes from love. And so if we're just going to church on Sundays and we're praying and saying, thank you, forgive me for my sins, and going back and being an asshole, it's not really going to work. Same thing with ayahuasca. If you're going to that church, if you're going to that experience and you have that experience and you're going back and you're not taking accountability for your actions throughout your whole entire day, that's going to the spiritual gym every day, showing up and doing the heavy lifting, meaning I'm not going to act like that. I'm going to act like this. I'm not going to think negatively about myself and others. I'm going to think about this. I'm not going to have those self-limiting beliefs. And still now I'm going to have this. And that's what self-mastery is all about, is that this isn't something that you just hit and quit and then say, oh, I did ayahuasca, this is great. It's a way of life. And she's meant to show you what's really going on inside so that you can hopefully get a leg up on your own game.
I just want to add, you said it perfectly. You have to do your own work. So whether you do the work first or you're going there to get some sort of answers, it's so imperative to know that after that. So you always have to give something in return when you're taking from such a sacred plant. So if you go there with the intention of, please, you have to have your intentions list. Please help me with this in my life. Okay, but what is your exchange? If I do that for you as a consciousness or a plant, because it is the most highest vibrational frequency of medicine I've ever experienced.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
It's of the light.
It's of the light. Yeah. That you have to give something in exchange. So if, like he said, you have to remember that. What are you going to do now that you've had this experience? What are you going to do for the world? What are you going to do for yourself? And that is in the work, and you have to do the work for yourself. And it doesn't need to be a lifelong healing journey. It could be done in 4 weeks. You do not need to be healing your whole rest of your life. You need to be pursuing your passion and your purpose the rest of your life. It doesn't have to be that way. That's our thing. We always say, yes, life is a journey, but healing doesn't need to be a lifelong journey.
Evolution does.
Yeah.
But we can like, I don't want to spend the rest of my life healing. I want to get
No.
over that and get on to the real good stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I love about this podcast is we get to hear people's stories, right? One of the things I love is hearing how you got into this whole thing. And then you started telling us a little bit about your love life. So I want to go into the fun stuff now, right? We'll come back to this. You told us a little bit of how you met. How long have you guys been together?
11 years as of
11
last
years.
week.
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's true love, bro.
Yes, I love it. And so this is actually, like, you told me a little bit of the story, Alexander, of, you guys' journey together. And rebuilding is not just about careers, it's also about your love life as well. You call yourself the, what did you say, the Romeo and Juliet? How did you say it last week?
Me?
Oh, I said it was kind of a Romeo and Juliet type of thing because I was like, the white boy and she's the Muslim brown girl, and those two worlds don't collide well,
He's my Aladdin.
Yes.
The white Aladdin.
White Aladdin.
What? So tell me a little bit of that story as well, because I think that's also something that people can learn from.
Love.
So did your family approve of Alexander straight away? I know you're Indian, and from Indian friends that I have, I know that it's also difficult it's difficult to introduce a non-Indian guy to the family.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe explain that whole journey as well, and how that's also helped you guys rebuild your beast, which is your marriage.
So I'm a big advocate for this and a big voice for this in my community because I am very vocal about biracial marriages and relationships and interracial everything. And I in love and that when we first met, okay, let's take it back. I was born in Nairobi. I'm from Africa, and 4 generations, my grandfathers, on both sides. I grew up in a very diverse community where the Sikhs and the Muslims and the Gujaratis and the Hindus and the Christians all hung out in Africa, and it was dope, and everybody was having fun. And then I moved to America when I was younger, and we got kind of put into this community, this Muslim community, where everyone is pretty much religion based. They all still hang out, but it's very, I don't want to
segregated.
It's segregated. And
well, we know we've all seen it, so.
And what I started to notice was that it wasn't the religion that was holding people back. It was the culture, the fake culture that had been developed, because Islam is a very beautiful religion. It never talks about excluding anybody from race at all, ever. It's the culture
Islam
that did that.
Peace in itself, like the word actually means peace.
Salam means peace. Islam means submission to the will of God. Yeah, but their greeting is Assalamu alaikum, may peace be with you, right? There's nothing in Islam that talks about racism at all. It's a taught and learned thing by cultures. The Indian culture, the Pakistani culture, the South Asian culture, there's nothing in there in any of those religions that talk about you need to be with a certain race. That's the culture. And so that's where it gets twisted, because my dad never told me don't marry anybody outside of your culture. He just said don't marry anybody that isn't Muslim. Right? So I wasn't, but
Christian.
But so yeah,
that was where I was.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing in Christianity as well.
Just stick with your faith. And so I was actually brainwashed by my community, not really my parents. My parents are pretty dope about stuff like that. My brother married a white girl when he was 18. And that kind of gave me a little bit of anxiety, because my dad wasn't too happy about that and didn't go to the wedding. It wasn't because of her color of her skin, it's because they were 18 and 17, And so, but my community, I saw people with their kids, so strict about you can't even hang out with certain, people. African American, you can't hang out with the other type of Indian, you can't hang out with another type of color, because they just have this weird racist thing inside of their culture. It's a tradition that's fucking sucks. Sorry. And I was programmed I was programmed in that, going, oh my God, like who these people are, like this is terrible. And so I had fear in me that if I was going to bring a white boy home, it wasn't going to be accepted. And I made up that fear. My dad never told me that. So when I met Alexander, I didn't hang out with him for 4 months after we met at Coachella, because I was scared that I was going to be, I don't know,
ostracized.
And just whatever. And when I took him to my father, okay, this is the sweetest story. You want to tell it?
Yeah. So basically, after that whole Coachella thing that I told you about, we missed the part where she wouldn't kick it for 4 months, and I was trying. And I'm like, I don't understand.
I don't want to hear the happily ever after. Said fireworks. Now we're married for 11 years. I'm like, wait, what happened in between? What happened?
So I was calling her and trying to hang out, and I didn't understand, because we were having these beautiful conversations for like hours on the phone. And then when it came down to it, she wouldn't kick it. But if a girl's not interested, she just doesn't pick up the phone. You don't have 2-hour conversations. It wasn't making sense. So I'm like falling in love here with this woman. I can just feel it. I've never felt anything like this in my life. They say, when you know. And finally, fate had it where she kept showing up in my life randomly when we would go out, when I would go out with
Bro,
my
I
friends.
was like, are you stalking me? Everywhere we went was destiny. We would run into each other multiple times, and we'd never like would hang out, like say where we're gonna be.
I was about ready to give up, and then boom, she'd show right back up. Boom,
Every time.
she'd show right back up. And so
3 times.
Finally, when I got her to hang out, that was it. It was over, and we haven't been separated since. Now,
Okay,
when it
Mac
came
Daddy.
yeah, woo,
You know, white people move quick. He's like, you want to go to my parents' house in Oregon? And I'm like, what? I can't do that. I'm not even allowed to date.
So she was sweating on the inside because she was falling in love too.
I was.
And she knew it. And so there was that cultural. Now, I didn't understand this. To me, it was just like, what's the problem? Let's go. So as I got to know her, and I couldn't like speak to her father, and this kind of had to be
Couldn't meet anybody.
Couldn't meet anybody. I'm like, what is going on? You know, and I had never experienced that, you know, and
So that's what the guys do. That's what the guys do. Is like, yo, we just hang out. We hang out at your spot or something like that. We just hang out at my spot. So yeah, but keep going. Sorry.
So her mom, I met her mom first. So we're easing in, right? And
my mom's freaking out.
She's amazing. And we had this great connection, and she was supportive. So that was stage 1, right? And
but she was freaking out inside that my dad was just going to be like, no, what's wrong with you? He's not Muslim.
Right. So now I got mom freaking out, and I got the girl freaking out. And again, I'm just like, guys, it's all good. It's just love, baby, you know? And they're like, you don't understand.
You don't understand. Well, how old are you guys at this time?
23,
24. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we were going to go and meet the father, right, in Toronto,
which I couldn't even believe happened. I called my dad. We have family in the movie industry, in the Bollywood scene, and we were going to the IFA Awards, which is like the Oscars for Indians. So lame. In Toronto, and my mom was like, why don't you just ask him if you can bring your guy friend? And I was like, what? I've never even been allowed to say that I've like been in the same room as like a guy before, right? So I'm like, what? So I was like, Papa, can I bring my friend? And he was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, freaking out. Then I'm like, oh my God, this is actually gonna happen.
It's 0 to 100 because now you're meeting like everybody.
Yeah. Oh, everyone.
Flying across the country, not like just going down the street, right? To say hello for dinner. And so I wrote him a letter, and I didn't tell.
No, that was after you met him. Keep going.
No, that was
Toronto.
before.
No.
That's why when we arrived, he was so feeling it because the letter had already arrived. No. I primed this. I was not going to go in there blind. I wrote him a letter from the heart, just speaking from the heart. And I sent that to him, and she didn't know. And so when we showed up in Toronto, and I had like literally had visions of like us just embracing and crying together. And I was like, oh, this is going to be fine.
But also with the letter, do you remember the company Spirit Hoods that he created? They're faux fur animal hats with the paws. So in Kenya, in Nairobi, when you want to marry the king's daughter, you have to bring a lion to ask for her hand in marriage. So he made him a custom lion spirit hood and sent it with the letter.
Off the jump. There we go.
And
so you gotta come correct if you're coming to the king.
So when I showed up and we're coming down the escalator, he's standing there, Big Papa Mo, he's a big guy. And
6'5",
and like the hearts are beating and whatnot. And we're like, how is this gonna go? And we step up, and he just goes, tears are screaming down his face, and he just walks past her and just gives me this big hug, and we're like crying together, and they're literally crying connection.
And I'm like,
what's happening with you?
I was just in shock. I had I was just like, is this real? Like, how is he okay with it? And then nothing, never said one thing to me about religion, never said one thing to me about race, it was all of my own shit that conjured up during being growing up in that community.
Wow.
And so I think, again, I'll go to the frequency of love. You know, it's like the message that I always see in this. I think love is always meant to inspire when we choose love, and that is something that we know is true inside of ourselves. no matter how it affects somebody else, thank God for us, it was embraced. For many people in these stories, it's not. They're ostracized when they choose love.
Yeah.
However, I think that that is choosing that love is always the best choice, and we actually work with a lot of people who have been forced into marriages or their loved ones were ostracized or manipulated out of their lives, and they are miserable the rest of their lives because of that, and so I think the message, at least for us, is like choosing that love no matter what, and always doubling down on that love. Yeah. And it will do its work. It will always do its work. For Mo and us, it was like he felt that frequency, and so he knew that he just wanted his daughter to be with somebody, and that as long as the love was real and his daughter was being taken care of, then maybe he could work on the religion later.
Yeah, because most of the time, I know I had it really good, and most of the time, but that's also a great example to how foreign parents can be accepting and not racist. So it's really a great story all the way around, because my parents aren't tripping about something like that, which should be a great example for everyone else's parents. Because the people that I deal with on the daily, I get thousands of messages all the time. How did you do that? How did you say that you were in love with a white boy? And I'm like, holy fuck, man, that's how deep the racism is. Like, how do you come out and say that you love someone from a separate culture and color? Like,
I mean, there are movies about this, right? There are books about this. There's a reason why it's a thing. Like, it's been a thing for a long time. There's a reason why there are books about this, because it's been a thing for a long time. And so hearing your love story, I think that is an example for parents on how it could be handled, but it's also an example for people, right? You got to be persistent, man. 4 months, forget about it. Just keep shooting your shot,
going.
man.
Keep going.
And I always say to all of my beautiful cultural people that I get to talk to all the time about this, is that you have to choose love, and you have to be that example, and you have to go there with your greatest honor and your greatest heart, because they have to see that it shouldn't take your father saying, well, he needs to convert. It's like, no, you need to convert your mindset into knowing that love is not a religion, and it doesn't matter what religion you are. You can find religion in God, but you don't need, what is it? You don't need to find God in religion, but you don't need religion to find God. And our love is definitely from God. And we always say it, our love is meant to inspire. It's greater than us. And so when you prove that and you show up like that, instead of succumbing back down to, okay, well, I have other people that are like, well, if he just converts, then we can get married. No, stand up for that. You don't need to convert to be somebody else in order to be with somebody. You don't need to change that person at all, or their beliefs or the culture. You just need to start your own traditions and make new traditions and make the old ones obsolete, so that racism and all of that is abolished.
You are preaching right now.
Being alone with somebody you love for the rest of your life, versus being surrounded by people who didn't accept that love for the rest of the life, is always the best choice. Yeah. I would much rather be alone and everybody had said, get out of my life, and be alone with this woman on a remote island forever, than to not choose that love. Which is what we're doing.
We're reproducing our own traditions and cultures through our kids. And that's what I always say to everybody: just speak up, use your voice, because our culture is designed to suppress our voices. And so that's why I'm a big advocate for it. Speak up, use your voice, tell the truth about how you really feel, and do not be pressured or bullied into some culture or tradition that has nothing to do with your spiritual evolution.
Oof. Man, all right, we're gonna need a second after that one. That was great.
You feel me?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I said, yo, you are preaching right now. I don't want to interrupt that. Since we're talking about relationships, all right, so maybe you guys can also tell us about your relationship and what the keys are you found to making a relationship work.
Ooh. I love that. People always, we are definitely one of a kind. It's been 11 years of sweat, tears, but always love. And we never, aside from when we were 23, we don't fight, because that you can't fighting in love and fighting in peace, they don't match, right? So when people are always saying I'm fighting for peace, that makes no sense, because peace doesn't come with fighting. It's just natural. And so you find a balance of communication is key. And you find the balance of communication, peace, and love together. And that is the best formula, because if you can just speak all the time, speak your truth every time. If you have an emotion, speak it. If you never bottle anything inside, always talk about what it is that you want. And there's always love as the common denominator, then everything else will be okay. And the support that a man can show a woman is the most important thing for a woman to thrive. So for me, no matter what I want to do, no matter if I'm feeling down or if I'm feeling I can't accomplish it or whatever, this man has had my back 100 million %. He's always been there to show me the light. And that's how I always say he unlocked my light, because that's why I am who I am today, is because I had a strong man who had no restrictions on me, who just let me be free. And true love is freedom. And so that's mine.
That was beautiful. There's going to be two types of people who are listening to this right now that I want to speak to. So I think one is the person who's trying to find and attract that love into their life. And then two, somebody who's in a relationship that might be in conflict, and they're trying to nurture that and heal that, or maybe try and get out of it. And I think the key for a relationship that you're already in is that if you want peace and harmony in that, it's not about fixing the other person or the other person becoming something that you want. Step one is heal yourself first. And so I always say the solution to all problems, saving the rainforest, climate change, racial discrimination, religious issues, all of it, is healing first. Because we can't approach anything from a half wounded state and expect the other situation to emerge, right? We can't create conscious solutions from an unconscious state. So number one is heal yourself. Your relationship will heal, or it will naturally separate. So when you heal yourself, then when you're trying to have that communication, when you're trying to see the best in the other person, you're already finding the best in yourself. So you're able to communicate a different frequency. When you're in an argument, right, and you're trying to communicate what you want, but you're coming from a wounded place, it creates tension in arguments, right? Because the person gets defensive and they feel like, well, you're wounded too, and blah, blah, blah. Be the example, heal yourself. It's like the perfect relationship is two different cars heading in the same direction in two different lanes, I think. And it's like, it's not carpooling the whole ride. It's still the individual being able to hold their own identity, what their love is, what they want to create in their life, and then being able to support each other on that journey, but you've still got to drive your own car. And I think too, for people who are trying to manifest love in their life, it's the same thing. It sounds so cliche, but until you love yourself, you're not going to be able to manifest that love fully in another person. Now, it doesn't mean that the relationship can't come together as two wounded people, because we definitely were, but we have committed relentlessly on our journey to bettering ourselves. And therefore, as we evolve, right, there is no argument, there is no conflict, because we're removing the conflict within ourselves. And so what's left is peace and harmony. And then if there is something that comes up, we can look at it and say, did that really just happen? And just laugh
did you just leave the bathroom door open after I told you? It's like the worst. That's the worst. It's
petty things. And so you laugh at it, and that's life,
Yeah. But you got to go inward first. And to properly manifest that person in your life, you want to be at your best, because total connectivity is a real thing. So when you're totally connected, mind, body, and spirit with yourself, then you're going to attract that.
And then you find somebody else who's on that same path too. And then it's like, wow.
So, when you say that, it's like, are you saying that you kind of addressed it a little bit? You said, well, you can be hurt or injured or whatever, and you can still meet the person. But are you advising that people heal themselves first before they go on this journey of finding love?
I think that if you're always, I mean, and again, yes, healing is a journey. So it's not like I'm not going to look for love until I'm fully healed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's like, if you're in the relationship, focus on healing yourself if you want to fix your relationship, and not healing the other person. And if you're on your healing journey, or you're not, or you want to begin it and you want to manifest it, start healing yourself, and you're going to find somebody who's trying to heal themselves too. And then it's like, nothing's better than going on a journey with somebody who's woke, who recognizes their own shit and wants to take accountability for it. That's
together is better.
That creates an amazing harmonious environment, right? Because you can fuck up, and then the person's like, okay, yeah, I fucked up. All right, cool. We growing? Yeah, we're growing.
Hold each other accountable.
Like,
holding each other accountable, but to be the best versions of each of you. Each of your higher selves is where everyone needs to be.
Yeah.
So when I looked at your profile, Shayoon, your profile description, it says trauma specialist. This is, we're talking about healing. It says trauma specialist and purpose alignment. All right. So let's talk about the first one. I think trauma is a topic that a lot of us deal with, so I myself know how tough it can be. So what advice do you have to give people that deal with trauma? Both of you.
My advice to people who deal with trauma is to deal with it properly. And look, I think there's a place for everything. Therapists are great. It's a great way to speak to somebody about what's going on. That's the first step. But I really highly advise everyone who's going through something to really go back to the first time and really realize what it was that happened to you in your life. And if you can't remember, then that's also a huge sign. And to really overcome trauma, you have to do the self-work. You have to really turn your life around. You have to reprogram that program, and you have to realize who you truly are and where you came from, because all of what you're traumatized from is taught, and it wasn't meant for you, and it wasn't in the frequency of love. And when you can take down that veil of the abuse and the trauma and realize that you are love, and that you come from love, and that you can reprogram your program back into that frequency, your mind, body, and spirit will correct itself.
And so for me, I think trauma is, again, going back to what we're saying, is it's held in the body. And trauma can be an injury that took you out of something that you love, right? Like you said, there's anger there, you said, right? Like there's other things there. So it's like looking at what the emotions are and not shying away from them, understanding where you're holding them in the body, and then learning how to move that out. And then what happens is we recognize, oh my God, it took more energy for me to hold on to that pain, ignore that pain, or dance around that pain than it did for me to just look at it and dissolve it. The missing key for everybody is just the tools on how to dissolve it. That's it. Everything else is the same across the board. We've got the same blood for the most part, we're breathing the same air. We heal the same.
Yeah.
We heal the same too. It's in the body, get it out of the body heals.
Boom,
it's
done.
simple.
And you have to realize that you are not your pain. And when you realize that you're not your pain, and you're not attaching yourself to that, story anymore, you can free yourself from your pain body, just releasing.
This is also great. I'm really grateful.
We're grateful too, Faz. We appreciate you, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I love learning about these things. I want to know how I can move better, how I can rebuild myself better, as well as teach other people. Let's talk about purpose alignment, because I firmly believe, and I think that I'm being guided in the right direction. I know this. And even with things that are going on that are not the way I want them to be, but I still believe that the thing that makes me my highest self is still happening. It's shaping me. It's rebuilding me, right? At the same time, I also have these moments where I question if I'm on the right path. So, or even what my real purpose is. What's your take on that?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, you got to.
So this is it, right? We all have a purpose, and I think purpose is our unique energetic fingerprint. It's an actual spiritual calling that we can feel, and it's not an end destination. It is actual journey, and it can be expressed in everything that we do. So purpose can be brought into any type of different work or any type of creative expression or a conversation with a friend or a podcast or anything, right? And the key though is to knowing what that alignment truly is. And I was doing a lot of purpose work with high performance individuals, artists, entrepreneurs, creators before doing the healing work, and recognize that everybody has this question: what is my purpose? Am I aligned to it? As we started going down that process of self-discovery, it always came back to what's preventing me from seeing it or realizing it or embodying it. And that always came down to trauma, pain, blockages, suffering, disease, mindset.
Because the prerequisite to purpose is
healing.
It almost seems like it almost seems like as you go through life, you have things that stick to you, right? That distract you from who you are and what your purpose is. And it's not that it just takes you away from it necessarily, but it stops you from seeing it, that you're moving in this direction. And so what I'm kind of getting from this is your job is taking these things off. And like you said, the love is the thing that guides you in that direction as well, whether it's a
purpose,
job, for whatever.
Keep going, Mendy.
Purpose and love are brother and sister. They're husband and wife. I think that's a better analogy. Husband and wife, right? Like they're yin and yang. Like they go together. And that's why, like, for people who are looking to really clearly align to the purpose, I love the analogy of the compass. If purpose is due north and we're living in purpose, you're feeling inspired, you're feeling amazing, like your heart is filled, like you're healthy mind, body, and spirit. What you're creating is helping other people, because purpose has got to be about greater than yourself. It's got to be about helping others and contributing, right? Not like my purpose is to make money or my purpose is to be famous. Like that's not a real purpose. That's an egoic purpose. There's a truth purpose that comes from love. And so you're talking about removing what is not love, what is not your purpose, right? Which is ego, allows for that naturally to come up. And so naturally what happens all the time is when people go through this 4-week journey and they heal all that pain, they're always sitting there saying, holy shit, I didn't realize that like that could happen. And then they're saying like, holy shit, what do I do with my life now? And oh my God, wait, did my story, because story is key, my story of overcoming, which is like rebuilding the beast, the story of overcoming, right? We're all inspired by story, right? Story inspires purpose. That by overcoming my hurdles, my unique story, my unique energetic fingerprint, by bringing that story to light, I can touch people who are going on that similar journey too, right? And that could be 5 people, could be 10 people. We're inspiring people daily. Look at, just having 1,000 followers on Instagram, everybody and mom's got it. That's 1,000 people you influence, like that's a lot of people before.
We don't think about it like that. That's a lot.
Like it's a lot of people. And so they go and influence another 1,000 people, another 1,000 people. Like we are literally creating ripples throughout the universe by in our own experience and everything we think, say, and do. So becoming so conscious of what that is. And when you align with that, it's something that you can feel. There's endless inspiration. You're feeling joy and happiness all the time. Things are manifesting in your favor to align with that purpose, right? And that's something that's a practice too. It's showing up and meditating on that practice every day and asking for it and calling on it and asking for to be seen, like what's in the way that's preventing that. Most of us are not heading due north. We're between south and north. South is heading in the complete opposite direction, completely ignoring the purpose and heading in the gutter. Most of us are kind of like, never eat shredded wheat. We're like east. We're not like necessarily like contributing to purpose, but we're not taking away from humanity, That's like doing the job that you hate, and not doing anything about it, right? Most of us are kind of stuck in that kind of that east mode. And so it's going on that journey of self-discovery and healing that really allows us to find that, and then exploring all the things that we love. Like when we were a child, we had dreams, right? We wanted to be something, and those normally got put in the box. we're told we weren't good enough, or to get practical and get real. And when you do that, right, your light begins to dim over time.
So after the 4 weeks, we have a 3-week purpose training as well that allows you to understand your how, your mission, vision, and purpose. How are you going to get to your purpose? What is your vision? What's your mission? Who are you really? What's your life goals? What are your plans? And we help you put all of that out onto paper so that you understand what to do on the other side and how to get there.
And then commit that into your daily practice. And so just like, I love the athlete analogy, man. It's like you have to show up every single day and you bust your ass to practice to make those shots and learn how to play the best that you can. Well, the same thing is the game of life. It's like we have to show up and practice every single day to better ourselves. Like there's no difference. And so, you know, keep your eye on the ball, like keep the ball as purpose, right? The ball is bettering yourself will get you there. If you don't know what purpose is, just keep working on yourself and it will uncover. And that's the journey.
This idea of mindfulness is really important. My introduction, or one of my introductions to mindfulness was, I played for the Golden State Warriors, and when I was there, I remember we got one of our coaches got fired, and we got a new coach, Steve Kerr. And Steve Kerr comes in, like one of the first days we ever met this guy, and he's like, "All right, guys, we have 4 values, or we have 4, I think it was values," and he wrote them all down. It was competition, it was mindfulness, it was joy, and compassion.
Wow.
I'm like, what the heck? Mindfulness? What are we talking about? And obviously, like competition and joy, like yeah, we got to enjoy, but like compassion, mindfulness.
Huge.
And I'm like, I didn't understand what it was. And it wasn't until later, like, dude, you have to be mindful every day. It's a practice. Like you can't just show up to play just because you're good. Like you have to, there's a mindset that has to come on. There's a way that you have to think about the game. There's a certain approach that you have to have. You don't just wake up in the morning and say, well, I'm gonna go have a good day. You have to start off the day like, yo, envision the good day. Know that like, yo, I'm going to be the best person I'm gonna be today. I start off listening to this book most days, and it's the best tradesman in the world, best sales. Have you ever read that book or listened to that book? The best salesman in the world.
No.
And the first chapter is like, I begin this day with love in my heart. And it's just the idea, like whatever comes my way today, I will accept it or I will deal with it from a place of love.
100%.
And when you think about it, I started looking around me like traffic. People start getting mad. I'm like, yo, why are you so upset about this situation? It's just break and move on. Like I never understood that stuff where people start and it ruins the whole rest of your day. But this is all mindfulness. Okay, I could talk about this with you guys all day.
No, this is great. I call this reprogramming. And what you just said is so important, like being mindful of your program. Like the old program would have been, hey, fuck you, get out of my way. But the new program was love that you installed, and it was a choice. You could have chose to go to the old program, but you said, you know what? No, I'm gonna let that go. Like love, bro. Like, and guess what? And then that actually changes the neurological connections in your brain. And there's incredible research showing that like our thoughts changes how we wire our emotions. And so you're retraining your mind into alignment of a frequency, which is love, right? So mindful alignment. And this is one of the blessings in the morning ritual meditation that we do.
We have something called the morning ritual, which is a practice that if you do every single day, you will have an amazing day and it increases your productivity. And so changes your life. It changed my life, his life. And it includes an exact routine of how you should wake up, how you should sleep, and what you should do in between to maximize your days. And we can put that here for you, for all of you.
I'd love for you to test drive the meditation and tell us what you think.
I would absolutely love to do that. Meditation has turned into one of my daily practices, and I love it because it's changed my whole perspective.
How has that changed your life from pre-meditation to now?
I think less erratic. I'm one of the people that I want to do 100 things at the same time. And I think if I was born and raised in America, they would have labeled me ADD or ADHD, right? Because I'm the person, I can't sit still very long. I want to go somewhere. I want to go do something. I think that the idea, the what it's done for me though, meditation, what it's done for me is just be able to be present. Because in the end of the day, like I had a terrible, something happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I had like a bad diagnosis, right? And I was like, dang. And somebody saw me later that day, like, oh, how are you doing? Are you okay? I'm like, I'm good. At the end of the day, like what I can do is what I can do. And when I focus on just taking steps and just laying bricks down every day, I'm trying to build a wall. What meditation did for me, it's actually a good analogy. It helps me focus on that one brick. Because people look at the wall and they get frustrated, they get tired, like, oh man, I got to do this. Or the wall breaks down, you're like, oh man, I got to do this again. It's like, no, I just got to put one brick down. That's all I can do right now. And that's all I can focus on. And when you look at life that way, then you don't get frustrated. You don't get anxious. Your depression goes down because you're like, I have something I can focus on. I have something I can do. You're always in control. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Of your emotional state. And that's the one thing that we have control over. That's it. That's it. And everything else is like being in that presence. And if you go to any great true spiritual teaching, they all talk about that presence, and it's the gateway, it's the doorway through.
Yeah. So you now have a son, Aya, is that how you say it?
Aya.
Yeah.
Aya. And another child on the way. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
I also read that you were involved with the Child Rescue Coalition.
I am.
Talk to me about that, because children bring so much light and joy into this world.
So unfortunately, when we first came to Bali last year, I'll give you the short version. We woke up to a man in our room moving our crib, Aya's crib, and it was an attempted kidnapping
and robbery.
Yeah. And it took me a really long time to turn my pain into purpose with that one. And so I did everything I could. I researched everything. I really was going to get behind how am I going to make this. It's a very real thing that happens underneath our noses every single day. Child sex trafficking, human trafficking, and child sexual abuse is
the real pandemic.
And when it happens to you, or when it almost happens to you, your entire world goes upside down. And then, of course, you want to know what you can do to prevent it. So I found the Child Rescue Coalition, who is this amazing nonprofit. They're in America. And what they do is they have amazing technology that tracks predators by their IP addresses, so they can see in real time where the abusers are, and they give it to all law enforcement agencies for free. So it's like free technology that they put into the systems. And so say you're at a police station tracking it, the police officer who is doing the investigations can see on a map how many people are currently downloading child sexual abuse material. And it's not pornography, because pornography has consent. And so there's a petition going around right now. I'd love for you to sign that says that it's not consent. So it's not called child pornography, because the children are not consenting to this. It's child sexual abuse material, and it's disgusting. It's 30 to 50 million files downloaded and shared a day.
The most horrific things that
everything
nobody would ever want to imagine,
It's disgusting, from children with their umbilical cord still attached to 3-year-olds. It's the devil's work. And so what we do is we help track all of the hands-on abusers, and most hands-on abusers actually have the children in their homes. So the officers will go and rescue them. But how everyone else can help is that when the officers go to rescue the children, we make the care packages for the children. So if you want to throw a care party at your house, you can make packages that include like blankets and clothes and coloring things for children that are on their way out of this home into a rescue home, so that they have something that will make them happy and warm. And so the Child Rescue Coalition also does so many things, like educational offers online. They do walks. You can learn how to protect your children at home. All of these predators are online, especially during the pandemic. it's really it's growing a lot daily. And they say that 90% of the people or the children that are being abused know their abusers, and it's in their circle. So the best thing and my best advice to everybody is just really know what your children are doing online if they're old enough to be online. There are no secrets, so don't feel bad for privacy. There should not be any privacy online. And that also there's so many preventative things that you can start teaching your child now about these predators. So these predators have something called grooming kits that they spread around the internet that teach other people how to groom children. So
What's grooming?
And so grooming is what these predators do to entice children to speak to them online. So so you can learn about all the lingo, you can learn about who and what is on, because chats pop up in apps and stuff like that too. So they're enticing children when they're watching TV shows, when they're on app playing games on apps, when they're doing research for school or whatnot. So there's a whole list of things that you can do. And if you're listening now, you can just go to Child Rescue Coalition .com, and there is a how you can help area, and there's every dollar counts. And if you can't donate, then you can also just spread the word.
$25 saves a kid. So it's like, it's pretty amazing when you break it down.
Right now.
And
right
so
now, I can't believe what I'm hearing. This kind of stuff really, all right.
Nobody wants to look at it, you know, and nobody wants to hear it. And it's so important that we do, you know, and thank you for giving voice to it.
Thank you for asking about that. And so there is so much that we can do to help prevent. Just the stats alone, people don't know. And I feel like if parents especially knew the statistics of what's going on.
How many kids are disappearing in the US per year?
I don't even know anymore.
I think it was around a stadium size. So like 50,000 to 100,000. So like a stadium filled of children in the US disappear every year. They're like actually kidnapped. And like, how come we haven't shut down every single system and gone weeding those out? But we're like freaking out about, you know, COVID. It's like when we say this is the real pandemic, this is the real pandemic. These are innocent children, you know, like just disappearing and being tortured and abused. And
unfortunately,
there's nothing being talked about it really, you know, in
unfortunately, the stats in the US are crazy. And most of the people that are getting caught are teachers and enforcement, and it's and doctors.
90% are within your circle. So if you are a parent listening to this isn't to make you paranoid, it's to make you completely cautious. It's like, just don't leave your child alone with anybody. You know, you got to know who they're going to school with. You got to know who's watching them for that 1 second, you know, like the people who are around you 24/7, you know, like, do you really know who they are? And even if you think that you really know who you are, and we see this by helping so many adults now heal from sexual trauma, unfortunately, it's, you know, family members. And
there was a doctor that was just found, and he was asked, how many children have you sexually abused in your time? And he was sexually abusing all the children that came to his office. And he looked outside and it was snowing, and he said, how many snowflakes have fallen on the ground? And that being said, meaning when you have somebody that has already been a hands-on abuser, they tend to abuse over 100 to 200 people, children, or, you know, people
1 to 200 is the ratio
in their lifetime. So that's how big of a pandemic it is. Yeah.
I'm really grateful that you guys have turned your pain into a purpose, you know.
Thank you.
I'm really glad that Aya is safe.
Thank you, brother.
That's the most important. We have our boy.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters.
Yeah. So, like I said, we could talk about this all day for sure. And you guys are very passionate about what you do, and you're turning me into somebody who's a big believer already. And I haven't even tried it yet.
Yes.
We invite you in, brother. Would love to show you what we do.
Oh, I for sure will be out there in Bali doing
Come.
this for sure. That's where I need to be. If you could give advice to anyone that can start implementing, you know, this healing lifestyle, and trying to live a more fulfilled life, what would that advice be?
Well, step one is develop a self care morning routine. That's just literally that changes everything. And again,
We'll put it here for you guys.
we'd love to give that away as a gift to anybody who's interested. And you can just hop in, you download it, and it's really about, before checking in with the world, as Shayoon always says, check in with yourself. Before you open up, Instagram and start going through your feed, before you hop on the email, before you listen to all the fear-based program and propaganda, like, take a step back, start with gratitude in the morning, look around. I'm here, another life, be grateful, right? Wake up, make yourself some tea, sit down in a meditation, be aware, connect into your heart center, dissolve the illusion of pain, get yourself aligned in the morning, visualize your day, right? And then approach the day. That alone just changes everything. And if you speak to any successful individual by the definition of most standards, they talk about this, right? So I think that's number one.
Yeah. After we have in our ritual, after you make yourself a tea, which boosts your metabolism, and then you sit down to pray, check in with yourself. How are you feeling? What do you feel? And then how can you remove any negativity if you have that? We have those tools as well in there during the meditation. And then also completely aligning your mind, body, spirit, so that when you do go check in with the world, nothing can mess with you, because you have a beautiful light bubble around you because you started your day that way. And then also we have something called a daily flow report. You guys can all print it out. It's on the sheet where you map out your day. So like Fez, you said you had like 100 things going on that you always want to do. This flow report makes you put the top most important things that you need to get done, so you have structure in your day, and it increases your productivity by 35%. And so check in with yourself, gratitude, make yourself some tea, sit down in meditation, pray, thank God that you're here for another day. Before you ask for anything, give thanks, schedule your day, and then go and do everything else. No screens before bed by an hour, and no screens in the morning is a game changer. Game changer. So that's our biggest advice to start.
And then that begins the journey, because then when you're sitting down for yourself every day, you start to become aware of what's coming up that needs to move. Well, okay, you can't settle your mind because you're angry about something. Well, then that's something you need to heal. And then that's when you got to learn to map that and clear that. And so then it's learning about the self-clearing tools, the self-healing tools. And sure enough, like when you're sitting down every single day to do this, and you're cleaning and you're doing the work, then there's nothing left. Like you can actually get to the point where you sit down then, and everybody says, I can't meditate because my mind. Well, the greatest thing to be able to still the mind is just clear all the bullshit that's making it run in the first place. And so when all that's gone, you're left with calm. You're left with peace. It's your natural state of being.
Yourself.
It's an amazing feeling.
Yes.
Like whoever's listening to this, like the real you is fucking incredible. Yeah. Like, and you'll love sitting with yourself after all this. You'll love it. You won't even want to see anybody. You won't want to be on your phone, because feeling that beautiful presence that you talked about, Fez, is like, it really is everything.
Yeah. And it's really important now that everyone's going back into lockdown. It seems like that you control your mind, because that's the only thing you can control. And when you're in that state of complete presence and gratitude and love, and you are practicing that as your daily way to go about life, it changes everything, and it changes the way that you look at the world and the way in which you will start to receive.
So, the really cool thing is, after this conversation, this interview, this beautiful episode, I'm now about to go take a walk, because I feel lighter. I feel good. I feel like your love is coming through the Zoom all the way across the world. Your love is, I can feel it over here. And that's what happens when you do the healing work. And so I'm really inspired, and I'm encouraging everybody who's listening to follow
Thank you
this
so
path.
much. And that's
Thank
how
you
we
for
do it.
sharing.
We do our healing work on Zoom. We're helping people heal like this, just like this, because love is a frequency and vibration, right? We always say, everybody, remember this. The light is the way, and the way is the light. And whatever isn't light is in the way. And so just move towards that always.
And whatever's not there, just get it out. Get it out.
Yeah.
And don't stop till you get it out. And sure enough, the evolution just takes place, and it is a beautiful thing. And thank you for saying that, Fez. That really means a lot. And we really appreciate you and
another takeaway
this.
is just always remember, if you're going through something or you need clarity on something or you need to make a decision, always ask, is this from a place of love? And if it's not, or fear, and if it's not, then it's not for you, because nothing will ever be for you except for love.
Exactly.
And light.
Shay, Alexander, I really appreciate it. This has been great. And man, I'm looking forward to more conversations, because I'm sure people will want to hear more about the relationship piece and more about the healings. But for now, I just want to say thank you. And I will be following your journey. And don't be surprised if you see me in Bali now.
Well, come on out, man.
You have to
bring
come.
the team. We're going to be doing some retreats, and we're going to be doing some amazing things once everything opens up. And I know everybody's on lockdown. If you're looking for a place to come, Bali is beautiful. So hit us up.
Opening soon.
And let's do it.
Before you go, can you tell us where to find you guys? With the social medias or the websites? Talk to me.
Yeah. So my Instagram is at Shayoon, SHAYOON_. And Alexander's is at Mendeluk, MENDELUK. And you can find us there. And if you guys want the morning ritual, you can click the link in Alexander's bio and get it there, or it's bit.ly/TLC morning ritual.
Yeah.
TLC morning ritual.
The Light Force Center, baby.
The Light Force Center.
Light Force Center.
I was over here thinking tender love and care. The Light Force Center. It's all
the same.
Right?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
But yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm sure you guys have a whole bunch of stuff to do, so I appreciate you taking the time to do this. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you.